everyone, and welcome to a new video. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Keisha, and today I'm going to be talking to you about 22 books that I hope to read in 2022. So I've never done this video before, but I've seen a lot of people do it, and essentially the goal is, for me anyways, to read 22 books on my physical TBR. I own a lot of books and I'm always accumulating new books, and I feel like it's time that I read more of my physical TBR versus buying more books to read. Now, that's not to say that I'm not going to buy books in the new year, because I just don't think that that's doable for me. As a book addict and a reader and someone who loves to buy books, I just don't think it's possible for me to not buy any. But I would like to read more on my shelves, so the goal of this video is for me to read 22 books on my shelves. So I have selected 22 books here that I would like to read. There are a few different categories that we'll go through based on just like why I want to read these and different genres and things like that. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into it. Let's go ahead and start off with a genre that I do not read as often. Usually I only read this genre around Christmas time, and that is romance. So I do have a few romance books on my shelves, and I do need to read quite a few of them. Two of them that have been on my shelves the longest that I really need to get to are The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren and The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary. So these are two of my books, the first two of my books, and The Unhoneymooners, I'm not gonna like tell this long synopses of each of these books because that would just be too long of a video. But The Unhoneymooners is basically like a haters to lovers. There's this couple that gets married, they get sick, they can't go on their honeymoon, so their best man and maid of honor end up having to go, and it's hate to love. So hopefully I can read this during the summertime. I have read Christina Lauren before, and I do enjoy their writing, so I'm hoping to like this one as well. And then The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary, I have not read. This is kind of I think it's forced proximity trope where these two end up in the same flat and they fall in love. I don't know if it's like haters to lovers or if they care about each other or not at first, but this has been a book that's been on my list for a very long time. When I first started BookTube, one of my first friends was Christine from Chapter Christine, and she read this and loved this, and she kind of piqued my interest in it, so I really need to get to this one to figure out if I like Beth O'Leary. Next on my list is a little bit more normal of a thing for me, and that is 3 thrillers that are on my shelves. The first one is Have You Seen Me by Kate White. One of my previous coworkers read this book and really enjoyed it, and that's why I added it to my list. That's why I bought it. I don't really remember what it's about, but let me read the back real quick and I'll give kind of like a brief overview. Okay, now I remember why I added this book to my list. So this is about a woman named Allie Linden, and she goes into the office one day and finds out that she has not been at this job for 5 years. So she's got like this huge chunk of her life that's missing. She has no idea how she got from point A to point B. She's finding out all these new things about herself. Like she's married to this man. She lives in this new place. Her new job is different. So she's trying to like backtrack and figure out what happened to her and dig into the deep secrets of her past and outsmart the person who seems determined to silence her, something like that. So that sounds really interesting. I definitely need to pick this one up. And then I also have All These Beautiful Strangers by Elizabeth Klefoth. I think this is a young adult, and I don't really remember what this one's about either, but I feel like a lot of people like it. It says a young woman gripped by her mother's disappearance is caught up in a dangerous web of lies and deception involving a secret society in this highly charged, addictive psychological thriller. So this is a little bit of a chunkier one, but if it is YA, which I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's YA or if it's just like young adult. Not, you know what I mean? Not like young adult, but if it's like a younger adult novel. It seems like it's YA though. Anyways, it sounds really good. A lot of people seem to love it, so I definitely want to get to this one. And then the last thriller I have is Watching You by Lisa Jewell, which I don't know a lot about except that it's like these people, these neighbors in this neighborhood watch each other and maybe somebody dies. So yeah, I don't know. It's something to that effect. I have not read anything by Lisa Jewell yet, which is why this is on my list, because I do want to read something by her, and this is the only one of her books that I own, so hopefully I can read this maybe with Lauren from Lauren Love Reads, because I know she's read some Lisa Jewell and I don't think she's read this one yet, so maybe I should try to buddy read this one. Next, I have a couple of historical fiction. I do not read enough historical fiction. I would like to read more historical fiction. I have liked what I've read for the most part, but it just doesn't pique my interest as much. It doesn't draw me in as much like initially, so it's hard for me to pick it up. But I do have 2 on my shelves that I need to get to. One of those is The Tattooist of Auschwitz by Heather Morris. I've heard mixed things about this. I've heard some people love it, some people don't care for it, but it is based off an account, like a true account of, I believe, this man that was in Auschwitz, maybe? Yeah, this man who tattooed the arms of thousands of prisoners with what would become one of the most potent symbols of the Holocaust. So yeah, and it's pretty short, so I feel like I could get through it fairly quickly. So this is just one I definitely need to get to. Y'all, this tree keeps poking me. I'm about to move these branches. Okay, so the next book is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. I feel like everybody loves this book, which terrifies me, and it's why I haven't read it yet. So this is by Delia Owens, and this is a like mystery historical fiction, I think. And it's set in the South. I'm from the South. I'm not from North Carolina, but I'm from Tennessee. That's close enough. And so I'm very intrigued by this. There does seem to be a lot of like white space. So maybe this isn't super intimidating. I don't know. But I feel like everybody loves this one. I don't really know what it's about. Marsh Girl, 1969. This girl like lives by herself in the marsh. I think there's something like about a murder in here somewhere. I have no idea, but everybody seems to love it, so I guess I need to give it a shot. Then I have a Christmas book on this list, and if you know, you know. I have had The Afterlife of Polly Chase on my list for like 3 years, pretty much since I've had BookTube and before. And I have started this one before, I just didn't finish it. I think it was because it was between Christmas and New Year's and I was done with Christmas books. So I need to prioritize this because every year I put it on my list and I never prioritize it. It's essentially this Christmas Carol retelling about this girl named Holly Chase, and she is a Scrooge, and she doesn't listen to like the ghosts that come to visit her. So now she has passed away and she works for Project Scrooge, and it's like her goal now to heal the Scrooges, not heal the Scrooges, but you know, like turn their lives around and all that stuff. So I've heard this is a good one. Oh, there's actually a bookmark in here. So I got to chapter 3 the last time I read this, and I've actually been looking for that bookmark, so I'm going to take that out. But I definitely need to get to this next Christmas. That's why I'm putting it on this list, because I'm so tired of putting this off. Okay, this next section will probably be appreciated by my friend Liv from Liv's Library because she loves fantasy. So I had to have 3 fantasy books on this list. And the first one is one of her favorites, and it's The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I need to get to this one mostly because I really want to get to this one. And I know I don't have to read this one first, but if I'm going to read Erin Morgenstern, I'd prefer to read her first book and then her second book. So I think I'm going to buddy read this one with my friend Ashley from the Bent Biblios podcast because she hasn't read it yet either. And I don't know anything about this except it's like this circus that just appears, and I think there might be a romance in here. I think it's a little bit historical too. I have no idea, but this is a well-loved book in the community, so I definitely need to read that. And I really, really, really want to read The Starless Sea because, I don't know, it's a chunker of a book, but the premise sounds so interesting. Like, this guy ends up stumbling into this library where he sees, like, books filled with accounts of his own life. And I don't know, there's like clues, there's a mystery. It says labyrinth. I mean, you tell me there's a labyrinth in here and I'm like, yes, please. I love mazes and labyrinths and things like that. So I definitely want to read The Starless Sea too. So technically there's like, I guess that makes it 4 books on this list, but The Night Circus was the actual book. I was just adding, I'm going to add in a couple of books for options, but the main ones are the initial thing that I'm listing. So anyways, next is Sorcery of Thorns, which I also need to read with Ashley and Tegan from the Bent Biblios podcast because I think we're going to buddy read this. This is a book that I have highly anticipated for a really long time. I feel like it's one that I would love, but because I haven't read a lot of fantasy lately and because I'm not really sure if I like fantasy as much anymore, this has become an intimidating book for me to read. I'm scared that I won't like it, but I'm hoping that I will. It's basically a book about books and it's fantasy. It's about this girl who's like a keeper of these grimoires in this library, and the grimoires end up getting out and somebody's like trying to sabotage her, and there's like sorcerers, and I don't know anything else about it, but it sounds good. It's a fantasy that I'm still really interested in. I think the reason I haven't picked it up yet is just because it's been super intimidating and it's a little bit longer. And the last fantasy that I want to get to is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. This is a duology, and I do own both of these books. And I know this is a book about Laszlo Strange, and it says he's a war orphan and junior librarian, and he dreams, I think, about this place called Weep, and then he finds out that Weep is actually a real place, and maybe he needs to save it or something to that effect. I could be completely off. I haven't read the synopsis to some of these books in so long, but I do want to read this and continue and read the duology if I like the first one. Some of these books have just been on my shelves for so long, it's just time for me to read them or they need to go, and that is the case for most of these books on the list. Next, I have some middle grade. So the first one is The Girl Who Speaks Bear by Sophie Anderson. Sophie Anderson wrote The House with Chicken Legs, which I enjoyed, and I want to continue on with her books. There's this one, and then there is The Castle of Tangled Magic. And I do want to read them in order because I think some of the characters pop up in different books, so I want to go ahead and read them in order. But this is about a girl named Yanka, and she was raised by bears or something to that effect. They find her in a bear cave, so she's like trying to figure out where she came from and different things like that. I love the illustration art style in these books, so I really want to get to them soon. I just think they're really pretty, and that adds to the reading experience for me. So I definitely need to pick that one up. I also need to get to The Cavendish Home for Boys and Girls by Claire Legrand. This was the first book that I ever added to my Goodreads. When I first created Goodreads, this was one of the first. It is a creepy middle grade, and it's about these kids who are at this orphanage, I think, and something is like off about the kids. Like after they come out, the kids are like weird or different or something. They come out smarter, prettier, and better, or they don't come out at all. So this sounds really interesting, and it's been on my list for a long time, so I need to get to it. And then the last middle grade is Winter House by Ben Gooderson. I own all three of the books in this mystery middle grade series, and I think these, again, the art style of these is so neat. So you've got like windows, and then they open up to this beautiful hardcover. I just think this is so beautiful, and I want to read this so bad, and I think I'll really enjoy it. I seem to like middle grade mysteries, and again, the illustration, the art style in this is gorgeous, and I don't know anything about it except that it's a middle grade mystery and that I really need to read it. Next, this is going to come as a bit of a surprise. So I don't read a lot of classics, but I do have some classics on my shelves. So what I want to do is read 2 classics this year. That can be children's classics or like adult classics. So I do own 5 classics, and I'm going to show you guys these 5 classics, and I want you to tell me 2 of them down in the comments that you think I should read this year. The first one I'm going to show you is probably one that's going to be a priority for me, so this may just be one of them, and then you guys can help me pick the next one. The first one is The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. I feel like most people know what this is about. Most of you probably know more about it than I do, but I do need to read this one because it's a classic, and I want to watch the older movie and the newer movie and just kind of see if I like this story. The other options that I have are all like classic adult books. Well, actually, hold on. This one is not adult, I don't think. It may be kids. This is The Arabian Nights, selected and edited by Andrew Lang. So I need to read this one because I really liked night books, and I think because it was based off of like different stories that are told at night, so like To Survive or whatever, I think that's like basically the same thing. I need to read this. So this one's on my list. Then I also have Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, which I believe is a more modern classic. I did watch the movie on Netflix and I enjoyed it. It is kind of like a slow burn, but I feel like because I've watched the movie, I may be able to get through the book a little bit better. Lauren, if you still want to buddy read this at any time, let me know. Then I have a couple of horror classics. I guess they're horror. I don't know. One of them I think is more sci-fi. Anyways, so I have Dracula by Bram Stoker and Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. So also I have these beautiful editions because these paper mail press editions are just so pretty. I have never read either one of these. I had the option to read Frankenstein in high school, but I did not. It is shorter, so I am more tempted to pick this one up, but then we have Dracula as well. Like I said, I've never read either one of these, so I definitely want to pick them up at some point in my life, and hopefully that will be this year. Okay, we are down to the last 6 books. The next ones are going to be authors that I want to pick up again. The first one being Shauna McGuire. So I have read Shauna McGuire's Wayward Children series, but I have not read anything else by this author, so I wanted to pick up Middle Game. and I am hoping to buddy read this with my friend Elizabeth from Ponytails and Paperbacks. So you see, this is how we need to do it. When we got books on our shelves that we need to read, buddy read them because it helps you read them. So yeah, Middle Game by Shauna McGuire is one that piques my interest. It's kind of sci-fi, it's kind of fantasy. It's about Roger and Dodger, and they are like the product of this alchemist, and they are like, the alchemist is trying to use them to like attain godhood or something like that. I don't know. It sounds interesting. I've heard good things about it, so I'm really excited to give Shauna McGuire a shot in a series that is not the Wayward Children series, because I do love that, but I want to see if I like this book as well. Then, of course, this should come as no surprise, I have another Jennifer McMahon book on my list. You guys know that Jennifer McMahon is my favorite author, and I'm really excited to read Burntown. I'm not sure that it's going to live up to, well, there's not really hype around it, but I'm not sure if it will live up to any of her other books. I haven't heard a lot about this one, but this is the last of her backlist that I'm really interested in reading. Otherwise, I'm just going to be waiting on her newer books, so hopefully this will be a good one. I don't really know much about what this is about, but it is set in Vermont just like her other books are. I think there's like some misfits. There is a college town. I'm literally just picking words out of the synopsis. I'm not really sure, but hopefully it'll be a good one. And then the last of authors that I want to pick up again, I'm just going to say like the author's name, and then I want you guys to help me pick which book, which I feel like I know what you guys are going to say. But I have read Katrina Leno quite a bit. I've read Horrid, I've read Summer of Salt, and I've read The Half-Life of Molly Pierce. And I own 3 of her other books as well. So I have You Must Not Miss, which I feel like this is the one you guys are going to vote for me to read because I feel like it's the one that most people have read. And just look at that cover. Why would you not want to read that? That looks so interesting. I'm not really sure like what any of these are about. Again, it's been a while since I've read the synopses. But the little like quote on the top says, if you give a name to an impossible thing, does that make the impossible thing any less impossible? So I don't know. I think there's like mental health stuff in here, and this girl is like dreaming of this place called Near, and I think Near becomes a real place or something like that. I don't know. That sounds super interesting. And then I also have some more of her backlist. I have Everything All at Once, 24 Dares, 3 Weeks, Take the Leap. This one actually sounds really good. I believe her aunt dies and then leaves her like these letters of like dares for her to do, like, because the main character does not really, she's not adventurous. She doesn't do a lot with her life. And I think the goal is for her to just kind of take a leap of faith, do some fun things. And it's all like the goal of her aunt to kind of get her to live her life. So yeah, this sounds really good. And then I also have The Lost and Found. It says sometimes you have to get lost before you can be found. Does that not just sound so good? I think this is about this, I don't know if they're a couple, but they're pen pals. They've never met in real life, and now they're going to meet in real life. So that sounds really good too. So you guys will have to let me know which one of these Katrina Leno books I should prioritize to read another one of her books this year. Now, I'm going to end off with something that scares the mess out of me to do. But I have 3 5-star predictions on my list. These are 3 books that I will absolutely get to this year. They are 3 books that have been recommended to me. They are 3 books that my friends have read and loved, and I'm pretty sure they have been rated 4 or 5 stars. So these are my 3 5-star predictions for the year that I'm terrified if I say this will not be 5 stars, but we're going to hope and pray that they are. So the first one is Nevermore by Jessica Townsend. I know I have not read this one yet. I did read a pretty good chunk of it. Well, that's not a chunk, but I read like quite a bit of it last year or the year before, and I just didn't finish it. I got kind of in a busy spot in life, and I had put it down for a while, and I was going to pick it back up, but then I decided that if I wasn't going to read it like in one sitting or consecutively, that it would probably put a damper on the book for me, so I put it down. But everybody loves this. I really feel like it will be a 5-star for me. I was really enjoying it when I read it at the beginning, so I'm hoping that it is 5 stars, that I will love it as much as everybody else does, and that I will continue on with the series. The next book is Rules for Vanishing by Kate Alice Marshall. I have heard so many good things about this book. I've heard good things about the author. You guys know I love creepy books. This is a young adult book. It says, once a year, a road appears in the forest, and at the end of it, the ghost of Lucy Gallows beckons. Lucy's game isn't for the faint of heart. If you win, you escape with your life, but if you lose... So this girl's sister like disappears in the woods, and now she's going to go find her or something like that. Who knows? But this sounds super creepy. I feel like it has potential to be a 5-star for me. If not, I feel like it'll at least be a 4-star, but I'm gonna say this is a 5-star prediction because I really hope that I love this. I feel like I'm gonna like the writing. I feel like I'm gonna like the story. So hopefully this will be 5 stars. And then the last 5-star prediction I'm definitely terrified about. So Lauren and I were buddy reading this. She finished it and I barely started it. She gave it 5 stars. I'm scared because I know there's gore in this book. I know there's things people don't like. I know people don't like the ending. But I was really vibing with the writing style when I started this book, and I feel like this has the potential to be a favorite book. So I'm really, really hoping that this is 5 stars. We'll just have to see. It's about this girl who gets a call from her cousin that like there's something wrong. She gets there and there's like, it's fine. I don't know, but there's something creepy going on with the house or the family, or I don't even know. Mixed reviews with this one, but I'm banking on a 5-star. Okay, I think we made it through all 22 books. Don't forget to let me know down in the comments which Katrina Leno book I should read this year, which classics I should prioritize this year, and if you want to kind of push me and encourage me to read any of these other books, that would be great, because they have been sitting on my shelves for so long that I kind of need a little bit of encouragement to get to them. Let me know if you are planning on reading any of these books this year as well, and let me know one book that you are itching to get to in 2022. I hope that you enjoyed this video and enjoyed getting to see what I'm excited to pick up on my shelves in 2022. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, friends.